Good morning and welcome to the podcast, everyone. I hope you're having a beautiful day and that you're ready for yet another episode of the Pierre T. Lambert Show. Today, we have another incredible guest. I know all my guests are incredible lately, that has pushed boundaries both in my life and in the restaurant scene. And you'll see exactly why in this podcast, where we're going into the restaurant scene to actually talk about creativity and photography and a bunch of things. I honestly think there is a ton to learn from my guest today, and my guest today is no other than Michael Muser. Michael, is that the right pronunciation?
It is.
Perfect. Okay. Michael Muser is a director of operations and owner of two Michelin stars restaurant ever in Chicago with chef Curtis Duffy. Michael is a 30-year veteran of the restaurant industry and an accomplished sommelier. Food and Wine magazine named him Sommelier of the Year in 2014, and Muser has worked side by side with chef Curtis Duffy since 2009. Michael and Chef Duffy opened Ever in 2020, and Ever earned two Michelin stars for its first few months of service, although it was in the middle of COVID. We'll get to that. It's a pretty intense story. His previous two restaurants with Curtis, Duffy, Avenues, and Grace earned 2 and 3 Michelin stars respectively. If you're unfamiliar to the Michelin star rating, 3 is literally the Saint Grail, the 0.1% of the 0.1%. Michael has hosted the annual Jean Banchet. I'm trying to mix like French and English pronunciation awards and lend his support to talents to the Grand Chef's Gala, both of which benefited the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation of Greater Illinois. In the 2016 documentary For Grace, filmmakers chronicled the creation of Chef Duffy's former restaurant with Michael, including his role in its journey from concrete box to opening night. It's streaming on Amazon Prime and YouTube New Movies, and I'll link it in the show notes. Really, really great documentary. I highly recommend you to dig into, especially after that talk. I think you'll get excited about it. So Michael is also an avid motorcyclist and photographer, which is exactly how our worlds came to collide. Michael, thank you for being here, for taking the time. Your time is so precious. Your industry is crazy. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, man, it's an absolute honor to be on your show.
Michael, okay. Can you just like give us a brief understanding of how our worlds came to collide, because you're the initiator, you're the spark of that.
Yeah, how you and I collided was that a long time ago, when my chef partner and I first got together, I very much kind of saw what he was doing as like this really fun kind of artistic factory, and every few days, this really cool food idea would come out. And you'd be surprised at how many things like show up and then just disappear like days later. And you would go to the kitchen and be like, hey, where did that go? That was delicious. That was elegant. That was pretty. It was, this pink on this yellow, and, who could not look at some of this stuff and be impressed by it? And that it just disappeared so quickly kind of bothered me. And so I got a camera, and which has been the bane of my existence ever since, trying to get good at this damn thing. I fell down a rabbit hole and said to myself, listen, it's on me to make sure that each one of these pieces is seen in the way that my chef partner wants it to be seen, in all of the ways that it's special and beautiful and unique. I need to figure out a way to capture that in a photograph. I mean, man, when I started this nonsense, we're talking like 15, 17 years ago, Facebook was like waking up, like it was just becoming this platform for which you could take these, what we would now call NFTs, you could take these little pieces and show them to everybody. And really that was kind of the game, right? Let's, who's good at taking beautiful imagery of things that you create and putting them up on a regular and consistent basis to show everybody what's going on inside your tiny little box. It became relevant immediately that tonight on the books, we might have 50, 60 people in the dining room, but I can take a picture of that thing and 5,000 people will see it before we even open tonight.
Wow. Yeah.
And that was special, right? Like that was kind of unique, like back in its day. It's almost sad to think about it because like I hate Instagram so much now. I get so frustrated because I think I feel like so much of the stuff you put up now doesn't get to the audience that you want it to get to. The people that you want to see your stuff, I sometimes get frustrated. I don't think that they're seeing my things, and I want them to see it so badly, but I'm not in charge of that stupid algorithm. So I'll take a back seat. That's above my pay grade. But that's how my life and taking pictures kind of got started. And then since then, I've just become obsessed with photography and photographers. And in turn, as YouTube has grown up and that YouTube space has been filled by people like McKinnon and you guys are inspirational, man. You give us a voice, and we come to you when we need to figure things out, and we come to you when we're exhausted from taking pictures and being buried in Lightroom for 7 hours a day. And like, we all love to listen to music and drink coffee and fuck around with photos, but like, my God, sometimes it just gets so much. And then you turn on YouTube and you've got a 30-minute video on what to do when you're banging your head up against Lightroom and you just can't seem to want to pick up your camera today. So I went after you because I, of course, started a silly podcast, and the people that I admire, I fight for them, and I fought for a conversation with you. Stupidly, I didn't send you an email like a normal person would. I just started DMing you on Instagram incessantly until you responded. And why? Because I love photographers. I love photography. I love what you do. I love what the community does. I just think that photographers are it. They're our most worthwhile humans to have walking around the planet sometimes. They really are, man.
I would say it's chefs who feed us, but
they're important too. They're important.
Because have you seen a hungry photographer? Isn't it pretty?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, this is exactly what happened, guys. So I received a DM and I was like, who is this guy? And then I saw that you sent me like 5 DMs before at different times, and I was like, oh, he's persistent, which is great. If anyone wants to get a hold of anyone, you need to be persistent in a way. And that was something I remembered. And then obviously we struck a conversation. You're like, come on my podcast, and I check your profile, and I'm like, but he's a manager of a 3-star at the time Michelin restaurant, or I can't remember exactly the sequence of the event. And then I'm like, this is so confusing, but I love it. let's just go with life. Yeah. And that's how we got to meet. And your story, like, and what we started digging into was just incredible. I was like, oh my God, this is you doing something in an industry, like pushing the boundaries in that industry. And it's beautiful to see, and there is that connection point with photography, because you love photography, you share really good photos. And for anyone who hasn't seen it, I actually went to shoot in the new restaurant. We'll get to that in a second, but this is how this let's call it Chicago and friendship started, because we're both here and we're both trying to push whatever we're doing. That was
100%. That for me, it's I've now lived in this city for, a minute, 20 years or so. And I've always said that anything that I've ever wanted, the city has given to me. It's made me work my tail off for it and suffer endlessly. But Chicago has provided me that. And at every turn, even if you have to make it up, I make up Chicago community. There was no real Chicago community between you and I, but I swear to God, as soon as I found out you actually lived in Chicago, I'm like, it's over. This guy's on my podcast. There's not a way. This is not fair. He can't live in the city I live in, and I don't know this guy. He's on YouTube. He's going crazy. So immediately I was like, I don't care how many times I have to DM this dude. I want to have a conversation. I demand to have a friendship with this person. And however, and you know how friendships are these days, right? It's all it's all online most of the time anyway, right? You probably have really good friends, way more friendship than you share with me, but it's very similar in the sense that it's checking in with each other digitally, texts, likes, comments.
Yeah.
It's
that. Yeah, that's exactly true. I remember you were like, wait, you're in my city. You're shooting on streets that I walk every day around the restaurant. Like, how come I've never run into you? I'm like,
I promise you, I wouldn't be able to name the exact video. that you did, but that's where that was the straw that broke the camel's back. You made a video when you were in front of my restaurant, and I'm like, no, stop. Like, he can't be walking around the neighborhood and not come in. Like, it just didn't make any sense to me. And so I made it make sense. I'm like, this is over. I like taking pictures. You live in Chicago. There's just no reason why we can't build something, right?
Yeah, and even if I wasn't in Chicago, I highly encourage anyone to reach out, or like, yeah, I try to respond whenever people are persistent enough.
That's the other part of it. That's like, and I would say that too. Like, you want to, like, on the real world side of it, I'd still be sending you DMs, and for sure when you do that, there's no offense. Like, you can't, you throw that out there, and it's a message in a bottle, and
Yeah.
maybe it gets picked up, and probably it won't. And you can just keep pushing. Persistence will win the day eventually.
Absolutely. Okay, so Michael, I have a bunch of notes and questions, and I'm trying to guess where we're gonna start, because there's so much that we can dig into, the stuff that relate to photography, to just the creative mind, and to how you work with things. Let's just go with something like, let's step into feelings first. How did it feel? Do you remember the moment when you guys got your 3 stars with the Michelin?
Oh yeah, for sure.
What was it like?
Well, it's just as you described it. It's a very small percentage. So everybody's filled with opinions these days, but math seems to rule the day. And when you realize, I think at the time we were like one of 11 restaurants in the United States of America.
Wow.
In the whole country, you're one of 11. So right away, it just takes a minute for all that to kind of, those numbers to kind of sink in. And then for sure, I would hope that the next big set of emotions was just an onus of responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
Not to bring it back to the Chicago thing, but instantly you're like one of those things that makes a city proud. You're not just a business anymore. You're not just a restaurant. You're now it's like a thing. It's a thing that stands out. What does 3 Michelin stars means? It means excellence around every corner. It means precision around every corner. It means perfect first or die. Straight up. Like, those environments are not for everyone. Lots of people think they want inside that. They're like, oh, that would be the shit. That would be so awesome. I couldn't wait to get in there. Like, no, you don't like that. You're gonna stand, food runners stand like nutcracker soldiers, motionless for like 10, 15 minutes at a time, and then immediately are called into play and have to move like rocket ships. But almost in the way those Tron motorcycles move in the first Tron, where there's just, a left turn is an immediate hit, right? They move in that way, but prior to that, they're completely just sedentary. They're motionless. People think they love that kind of stuff, but when the rubber hits the road, these are very difficult environments. And when you get that 3rd Michelin star, and all of that starts to sink in, that this is not a game, and these standards are made of concrete at this point, you feel a sense of responsibility, for sure. Yeah, there's some glory there. We threw a raging party that night. It's definitely, even the most cynical of humans, for which I usually find myself being, you go, wow, this is big. This is crazy. Like, this is a really, really, really big deal.
That's,
it's special. It's very, very special.
Yeah, I can't imagine. And the reason I'm asking is, can you just give us, imagine I'm told, like, not moron, but lame person, not lame. I can't find my word, but imagine I'm totally outside of anything restaurant. I don't understand what 3 stars are, what 2 stars. How would you describe, or like find a parallel to describe a no star with a normal restaurant with a 2 and 3 stars? Like,
totally. I'm good. I'm somewhat good at this. I get asked to do it a lot, right? To kind of like break down what goes on inside of our restaurant. Like, you take, like, I come from pretty normal surroundings, right? So my parents. I usually like to talk to my parents in my head when I'm trying to describe what's going on, because my dad does not. Are you kidding me? He would look at a scenario like ours and go, "Why on earth would someone pay that much money?" Because kind of that's what
you didn't grow up with 16
right?
silver spoons.
Yeah, right. No, not at all. You take the average Joe or Jane, and I think what boils it down for them in the basic terms is, it costs this much to have dinner there, and they go, "Whoa, what what would be that? Well, I don't even understand what's going on inside of there that would cost that much money. Here it is. If you think of it from a standpoint of like a concert, right?
Yeah.
You're walking into a venue. We're calling it a restaurant. And on stage, we'll call the kitchen, is an artist.
Yeah.
And look, like all artists, we agree that they're good at what they do or they don't. Like, look, if you don't think that that artist is that good, then don't go see that concert, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes artists rise up and they go, oh, everyone, like on a level, everyone's like, that is a voice to be heard. Now, this isn't music, this is food. So they're saying this is a culinary voice to be heard. This is someone who looks around each season, grabs amongst the ingredients, and puts things together in a way, in a tasting menu format, that I would say, think of it as an album. And just like an album gets put together from an actual from a real musician, a ballad is followed by a rock anthem, which is followed by this song and that song, because the album is a story from beginning to end. And so it's not dinner because it's a story that's being told through some artists making culinary pieces that come out song after song. And some of them are pop hits and just taste delicious. And some of them are cerebral and weird and ask you to step outside your box and maybe rethink what you think isn't great. You know, like maybe it's an off flavor to you or whatever. And in a normal day, you'd be like, I don't like it. But on this day, you're going to dig in and go, why did they do that? Well, why did those two flavors get put there? I don't understand that. It's that experience. It's that you're showing up on a night where this person's going to play this album and you're going to eat it. And then on the other side of it, from the service standpoint, you're surrounded by an army of ninjas. And every single one of them will take a bat to the head for you. Doesn't matter what you want. You're going to get it. It doesn't matter what move you make. There'll be someone there to assist. And we're not weird about it because we're just hiding in corners, staring at the room, just waiting for you to need something, right? Excellence in service, I think often in restaurants, will sometimes just boil down to the very simple anticipation of the need before the need's actually requested, right? So you and I are sitting at a TGI Fridays, and your Diet Coke is run down to the bottom, and you're now slurping the Diet Coke because you're like, ugh, right? But if your Diet Coke were to get like down to the last 20%, and then boom, another one shows up with like a fresh piece of lime in it, you're like, this place is the bomb. Service here is on point. What's going on? Right? Your need was answered. You didn't even need the next one yet. You didn't even have the opportunity to ask for another Diet Coke, and it just showed up. My job is to do that like when you get out of the cab. Find ways. That 3 Michelin star motto carries with it the onus to just blow you away all night long with what we simply around here call wow moments, right? Just go over the top. Will you stop and find normal's not okay around here? And no one comes to this place, to our restaurant, just because. I mean, some people do, but they're very special. Most people come to celebrate. Most people are here for a big reason. You know, and I used to say pre-COVID that like the city of Chicago had 20 billion restaurants. Now there are less, but there are still a lot. And as a diner, you can choose any one of them. And the fact that you choose us at our audacious prices, at this price that it costs to put this show on, you chose me? No way.
Can you give for people like a price range of like what their experience investment would be like?
It's like in the high 200s, like 285, like 3 Michelin starred restaurants around the globe. It kind of depends on where you are, but yeah, they go from like $280 to $400-ish, right? We're around that 280 to 325, 350. We float around that area. It's become crazy from the food cost standpoint, right?
Yeah.
As everyone knows, the inflation and the supply chain thing have wreaked havoc with everyone, but for sure with the food produce industry as well.
Yeah.
And you'd be shocked at what a banana costs and, you know, all these things that come in the door. You're like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's been a little funky. I was reading actually an article about that banana. They're like, maybe they're still charging you the same, but look at the other items.
Yeah. Or like Alaskan king crab legs. Insane. Like they're so expensive. And when you ask why, to the supplier chain was telling me that no one's fishing right now. They can't get people to go out on the boats.
Interesting.
You know?
plus the fish shortage in general, that doesn't help.
Yeah, exactly.
Who knows? It might be a good thing for the fish.
I know.
They're all resting and like having babies.
Well, remember when COVID first hit or whatever, it was like in that first 90 days, and there were these photographs coming out of Venice.
Yes.
And the channel water was crystal clear.
Oh, it was beautiful. I remember. Yeah. And you're like,
I was eating those photos up on Twitter. I was trying to find everyone I could because, everyone that's been there, that water doesn't smell very good. It's, it's like, so to see it so beautiful as a picture taker, I was like, oh, I'd have eaten that up.
They're like, tell me. That's insane. Okay, I've had the privilege to eating at the restaurant, and for anyone who's ever wondered, it is an experience, and that's why I love to have you on the podcast, because it's something that a lot of people forget. In photography, is when you interact with others, you're actually giving them an experience, right? And that's something I took from you a lot through our interaction, and even that being at the restaurant, I was like, oh my god, how do they create such a welcoming ambience, but not in a pushy way where it's like in your face. No, it's like you said, it's like it's here, you just thought about it, and it's here, but not in a hey, you gotta get this, or it's just like seamless. And it made me think about even when I used to shoot with my clients back in Paris, when I was doing weddings or portraits. I'm like, it's all about the experience the client gets. The photos is the cherry on top of the cake, but if you have a great experience, you'll probably get great photos, unless you really suck with your camera. But then you should probably start training there. But that's the difference between a great photographer that gives you a terrible experience, and that you're gonna be like, oh, the photos are great, but this was so, I never want to work with this guy again. Or the people who are like, oh, all my friends have to work with you because you're so good, and when they say good, they don't mean just a photo. I think they mean the interaction. And what do you feel like this level of excellence actually takes, even from a standpoint, because there must be someone orchestrating that experience, and how do you think about it, and when it comes to the restaurant, and how would you translate that in every day?
Are you asking like as far as what it takes to do it every day?
To get the experience for people to that level.
Oh yeah. Well,
for the customer, like how do you guys even think about that?
Like going off of what you said, it's it's obviously about the chef, and
Yes.
it's obviously about the food, but no, it's not. It's not about the food, right? It's just like you were saying, the pictures are the cherry on the top, and that's basically how the food is. That's done. Like I can't control that. The artist plays his music. I'm no one, like if someone says I don't like this dish, I'm like, well, okay, that you went to the museum and didn't like that art piece on the wall. What it really is, what the experience is enveloped by and soaked in, is that what I always tried to lead with was that what you kind of mentioned, that sense of like warmth that you get in this. Let me put it this way. The dining room is sexy. The chairs are like black leather. The tables are made of this like amazing like matte black material. Like everything around you, if you're a normal person, you're like, Jesus.
And if you're a photographer, you're like, oh my God, this is so photogenic.
Totally. You're like, I'm going to hit this. You're like, there's beautiful millwork and stuff. And we really went to town on the room. I don't need to dump anything more on top of that from the intimidation standpoint, or from the she la la standpoint. I don't need to sheesh it up. The room is tight. The waiters wear nice suits. From there on out, this is a simple process. I am here to love you, to care for you, to serve you, to meet you with a sense of Midwestern hospitality around this environment that for sure is badass, and is edgy and modern and clean in all the ways that it's supposed to be. But we remind the team all the time, if you go out and pay this much money to have this lavish experience and you don't have fun, what is that? Like, you didn't have a blast? It's the first thing you should say when you leave. And the food is not a part of any of that process, right? That's all about experience and warmth and connection to your client, which again is exactly what you just said. Your connection and experience with your client on a shoot, The photos will be what they are, but their experience with you and that bond that you build takes about 2.5 hours to have dinner at Ever Restaurant. That's a fair amount of time for me to expect my captains to develop some semblance of a relationship with their clients at the table, right?
Yeah.
And also, too, we go, a kind of a fun note people love to know on the Michelin starred front, is at a particular level, it was expected of us to kind of know something about you before you walked in the door. You're not coming to me for anything normal. So for sure, when you book, we check out your Instagram page if you got one. We check out your Facebook page if we got one. You give you a Google and see if there's any way we can bend or twist this experience in an expected fashion that'll benefit you.
I love
Maybe
that.
I go to your Instagram page and you're like a huge Prince fan, right?
Yeah.
And that's all you do is go to Prince stuff. And I have a captain on the floor that's also a huge Prince fan. They're not going to say anything. They're not going to do anything. But there's just a symbiotic note there that when we're leading into service, and I read to you and I go, Pierre, at 7:30, the Johnsons are coming in. And fun note, Mr. Johnson is a huge Prince fan and has been to the museum like 12 times. It immediately, as the captain, your bell was just rung, right? Something there. You're not just waiting on anyone now. You're going to wait on this person you're expecting to come in the door. And that goes not just to just likes or whatever, but you're a principal at this high school. Okay, well, cool. But what high school? What community? Where in Illinois? There might be someone who went to that high school. That would be a thing, wouldn't it? Like, these are just things we're expected to know at a particular level.
So it sounds like you're seeing people like, not like clients, but just like people with their own story and who are coming to see you and just spend time with you, just like you would for friends. You wouldn't invite anyone in your diner, right?
It's a house. Yeah, it's a house, man, and you're inviting all these people into your house, so you do all of those things that a good host would. And
I love it. Obviously, I keep thinking like, damn, what if you created that for like portrait sessions or whatever, and like you had I imagine you need a team to like pre-orchestrate.
Bro, I walk into experiences every day wanting to redo like all of it. all of it. Like I want to go to work in the auto industry as like some sort of like hospitality guy to like redo the experience of buying something like that. Right? Like as you mentioned, I'm a motorcycle guy.
Yeah.
So I bought a few bikes in my life.
But
and it's like you go, bikes are fun because they're not that crazy, and within the realm of lunacy. You see people driving $100,000 cars. Like you go big on a bike and you're out 25 grand.
Yes.
But in my world, that's a lot of money, man. And you go and you buy the bike and whatever, and it's okay. If you're lucky, maybe you get a pair of BMW socks with your bike, right? Like the experience of buying one of those things, it needs to be re-engineered, dude. The whole hospitality side of it. And it's not that hard. It wouldn't be that hard to do it, I don't think. But
yeah, no, I agree with you. It's true. Like sometimes, and I've noticed the difference between Ever and other Michelin stars restaurant where we went to, because Trina, my wife, introduced me to it because she lived in London and all her colleagues were like trying stuff, and I was like, yeah, whatever, my mom cooks great French food, why do I need that? And then we went, but there was always that very intimidating aspect. So you're like, oh wow, this is a big deal, but then also the people made you feel like it was a little bit too much of a deal also, at least for me when I was there. Or it was overwhelming on the experience on the menu. Like I remember my wife literally started passing out at the dinner table, and she had to be outside for 30 minutes. And then I'm like, "Are you coming back in? We're still dating." I'm like, "Are you gonna come back in?" And she's like, "No, I can't." I'm like, "Oh shoot!" And I'm like, "Okay, I'll eat your dessert and we'll go." But I don't know. There were way too many dishes. Everything was too much. Trying too hard, and the difference I felt there was, as you said, the experience was more engineered. I understand that the other might have done it, but whoever is your captain or whoever is like, and you have great energy towards, what making people feel welcome, and that translates into the whole team. And so if you have a great artist and you create a great venue and a laser show and everything, and people dig into the experience, I think it makes, it's just beautiful. So I'm sending you a lot of flowers.
You bring up a lot there, but yeah, for sure, that experience on the dining realm, I'm no historian of anything, right? I don't know what I'm talking about. Half the time, I'm doing the best I can. Most everything is above my pay grade, but I will say that for sure, throughout the growings of the tasting menu format, this concert, right? Let's keep that analogy. Like, we've all been to plays that, like, at intermission, you're like, Jesus, really? There's a whole nother half of this? We're gonna we're only halfway through this play and I'm exhausted. I got to get out of here. Or concerts that were disappointing in that way. This can do that too. Dinner, like, you have to be very, very careful. And some people are more experimental, we would say, in that, right? For a while there, for sure. I would say, I don't know, I'm scared to say years, but like, say mid 2000s, 2003 to 7, like 4-hour tasting menus were not uncommon. These big, long, drawn out, my partner and I, Curtis and I, we decided a long time ago that like 2.5 hours is end time for me. I am not out for that. I'm just not. So we always try and experience or drive our experience to that 2.5 hour hit. But I totally relate to that whole, this is too much. Are you kidding me? It's still coming. Where are we at? 17 more courses? Oh my God. Oh my God. Like, I can't eat. I'm done eating. Where is this food going to go? Like, I've been a part of those, and they're disasters, right? The other, like, scary part about tasting menus is that the food doesn't stop coming. It needs a rhythm and a cadence. And, diners are on their own as far as their timing, their cadence. The room is moving, it's breathing, it's shifting in different areas, and it's the restaurant's job to keep everyone on this kind of rhythmic note, but they want their own specific rhythm, right? And so we have systems to deal with all of that. But I will tell you that even then, it's very difficult, right? You have to have what's called an expediter in your kitchen, and this person has to be a maestro. I mean, they drive the whole thing all night long. Oh my God, he was.
Guys, watch the video. I'll put it in the link below. There is someone who's literally, like, making magic happen for everyone. It's incredible. It's like a chef orchestra maestro. It's incredible.
He will sit there. His job mostly, when a dish walks to your table, he clocks it. And then you eat it as a client for as long as you want, because that's you. But when we clear it, that time is also immediately clocked. And then we will come up, we'll take that eat time, right? And let's say it's like 12 minutes on first course, 14 minutes second course, 12 minutes third course. Look, we're going to work a cadence for you. And it's your cadence. It's not ours. So you'll have in our dining room, some people sit at 5 and leave at midnight. And then some people get there at 7 and bail at like 8:15, right? They just ate fast. That was just their intention.
Do you, wait, I have a side question from that. Do you, what happens, let's say if you have a couple and it goes south into, like, they're arguing? Like, how do you guys think about even a situation like that?
We have Expo hears all, right? Yeah. The expediter in that position we were just discussing, they have to hear everything, right? So if the table makes a move in any way, shape, or form, if the babysitter calls and somebody gets up, or there's an argument that spurs at the table, for sure Expo will be alerted. That's kind of the system is built. When I say system, I mean captains, back waiters, food runners, floaters, the expediter, the chef de cuisine, this whole network of humans that are focused on the dining room. When one table blurps, celebrates, fights, gets up, leaves, a proposal goes awry, for sure the alarm systems go off, and the restaurant's aware and ready to kind of usher through whatever's being presented, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I just can't help but think about that scenario. I'm like, and you guys in the kitchen, give them the chill cake.
Yeah. Oh no, for sure. I would be lying if I said I have not heard in the kitchen where it's like, look, we need to pick it up on 12. It's not good. Like, this is not going good places. So we should pick this up. This is a date, and it's not. I'm hearing things. We need to go. We need to go.
Interesting. Okay. Let's dig a little bit into the origin story. How did you, because you mentioned your dad's not into this, you didn't grow up in this. How did you even fall into that world? Like, what got you excited about even getting in that industry? It's so tough.
Yeah, I went to college, was mostly a theater geek for a good portion of my kiddom. If I ever did anything athletic, I was a bicycle guy for a long time in college. I got steeped into road cycling for a really long time.
That's the motorcycle.
Yeah, motorcycles are literally the old man's road bike, dude. You're like, I'm not putting in 80 miles today, but I'll put in 500 on that machine over there. Yeah, for sure, dude. It's the same feel. It's shocking how similar the two are. I mean, if you ride bikes competitively and then you get on a motorcycle, you're immediately like overconfident. You're like, oh, I know this game. No, you don't, but you need to be careful.
Your brakes are reversed. Start here.
Yeah. And then I waited tables for the longest time because you always need money, right? If you're going to be some struggling actor guy out of college or whatnot. I'm originally from California, and I went to school in Northern California. And then when you graduate college, it's like, I went to school at Chico State. Those small college towns, when you graduate, it's like, get out of here. You don't, the college is the town. And if you're not a student anymore, it's like, oh, I should probably leave now.
Yeah, my wife, same.
Because I was happy in Northern California. It was beautiful up there. And then I worked in restaurants to just basically pay bills. And I got bit by the beverage bug. And I think you get to a particular age, you're waiting tables, you're like, yeah, this ain't gonna last. I can't do this forever. And I became super interested in wine. Fell down that rabbit hole for, oh God, years. Man, that's like a dangerous one. Be very careful. Because when you make a decision where you're like, I'm gonna understand this topic, I'm annoyed. I basically got annoyed with the idea of wine. Working in the hospitality industry and dealing with it, it just became very frustrating to me. And if you set out saying, I want to know it, I really want to know it, you're in trouble because that's going to take a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
And it did. It took years and years to just kind of work my wine life out and hit a wall where I said, I'm done. I don't need to study anymore. And I need to make a living at this somehow. This is crazy.
Were you studying on the side while waiting table, or how was it
for
built?
Sure. There was a Starbucks, still is a Starbucks on North and Wells, and I had armies of flashcards, libraries of wine books, and I would wait tables in steakhouses and then go to that Starbucks because it was 24/7. I don't know if it still is, but it was a 24/7 Starbucks. And you could study until 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And there were tons of students there. And everybody's cracked out on coffee. So nobody's tired, right? It's like 3 and 4 in the morning, Pierre. And everybody's like, hey, how you doing? What's going on? How are you today? You're like, I'm good. No one blinks an eye at the fact that we are all vampires. And I did that for the longest of times. And then started traveling and going to places and visiting vineyards and saying, listen, enough is enough that I've not been to Burgundy. I'm not studying and memorizing another Burgundian vineyard and not have actually walked around.
I want to taste the ground.
I got to do so. You got it's so crazy, right? It's like a mountain climber studying a mountain and be like, well, I haven't been, but I know every crevice. I know every part, right? Because when you go down that rabbit hole, you end up making flashcards on top of flashcards, right? It's not just enough to know Gevrey Chambertin and all the GCs. You got to at least know the top 30 premier crus. You got to know the village producers that are banging that really high-end level stuff that are just kind of off radar, but they're stuck in their section of the Burgundian pyramid. They ain't never going to get out of it. So there's Gevrey Chambertin, and then there's Gevrey Chambertin. Your job is to know those cats. How do you know those cats? Memorize them. How do you memorize them? Make another flashcard, Michael.
Would you
go back
bring
to Starbucks.
balls at Starbucks? Sorry to interrupt. Would you like bring taste stuff at Starbucks, or was it purely theoretical in that stage?
Totally theoretical. Memorize, for me and the way my brain works, I just got to know it as platform. I'll build off that.
Got it.
I just need to be able to, when you say to me, hey, would you happen to know the native varietals of Corsica? I need to be able to be like, yeah, and just hammer it out to you.
Beautiful.
Quickly, not quickly, but when you reach the end of that road, you realize you passed the general public like 6 years ago.
Yeah, what did they say? It's like it takes a short time to get to 90% best, and then the top 1% is like exponentially longer.
You're an expert on Italian wine. Congratulations. Like, would you study it for a week solid? Like, nobody, it's so confusing. It's such a topic that the general public is walking around half the time. They don't understand appellation law. Why would they, for God's sakes? They don't, they don't need to know any of that stuff, right? Your job immediately becomes very clear.
Mm-hmm.
I have to communicate this stuff to someone who doesn't know any of it.
Yeah.
In a way that they get it. And fast. And the job of a sommelier, which is when I decided, look, I got to make money somehow.
Yeah.
I started taking sommelier jobs in restaurants. I, was in hospitality, but sommelier is like an older waiter's job title for I'm not that stupid. I deserve a little respect. Because that's got, it's just like I'm just sommeliers are waiters, man.
Yeah.
They're on the floor, they're in the pattern, they're hawking. They're literally just flying around the room, eyeballing clients, seeing wine lists open, walking up. May I assist? What are you in the mood for? What do you normally drink? Would you want to step outside that box? Assessing a price point elegantly without ruining someone's night for their $12 bottle of Chianti they're trying to buy on their first date or some shit like that.
Yeah, I don't know why Chianti is so famous, but yeah. That's besides the point. I much prefer Montepulciano.
I mean, there's like there are epic renowned Sangioveses on the planet, and then there's Chianti. There's this Chianti, and then there's Chianti. So I don't know, where was I?
So you're like helping. You picked up the job as a sommelier. By the way, just quick question, because I think for anyone international, they might be interested. Did anyone require that you had some kind of certification to pick that up?
Along the way, yes, all the time. So I studied formally with a traveling circus of Canadian sommeliers.
Okay.
That would come to a city and pitch camp and teach classroom time.
Oh, interesting.
Which is still almost unheard of, right? Mm-hmm. I needed somebody to help me make sense, like give me some sort of foundation, right? And so I went to a conference and I met this guy. His name is Wayne Gotts. And this guy was like that professor in high school where you're like, yeah, yesterday I was a theater major and now I'm an African history major. You're like, I'm doing this for sure. And Gotts was definitely my guy. And so I studied with them for like 3 or 4 years and then taught sommeliers for a few years after that. Mostly because, like I said, there's nowhere to go with the information.
Yeah.
So like if you can assemble me a room of 30 people that are like me 5 years ago and want every little squirt, then we can sit in this room for 7 hours and talk about the Burgundian Pyramid and we'll destroy this place for a while. But those people are few and far between, man.
Yeah, I can imagine like there's only that many. Wait, so I want to go so many directions, but can we just do? When is the first time you actually went on the ground with the vineyards, and how was that experience after studying so much? Underwhelming or like?
So my most of the time when people when studiers go into the vineyard or whatever. You think it's one way, and it is. You very quickly understand this is an agricultural product like all the others, and you are slapped in the face with the reality of it, right? I've always said that, like, my experiences, excuse me, my experiences when I'm at wineries is humbling because it almost becomes humorous that this thing ends up in like this uber fancy restaurant being decanted by this like half snobby sommelier or what, because it is literally an agricultural product. It comes out of the ground, man. There's bugs and rats and mice and snakes and there's tractors and stuff getting moved everywhere. And there's canisters of sulfur and pumps, tanks, hoses. I mean, it's chaos.
Yeah.
And beautiful all at the same time. it gives birth to this universe of debate over winemakers, their hands in the product, how much is too much, use of particular items to make the wine stable or not, winemaking philosophies, cooperage, barrels. Jesus, you swim in it, right? You absolutely swim in it. Viticulture versus viniculture, what we do in the vineyard versus what we do inside the winery.
Yeah.
And the process of making it versus the process of actually growing what's out in the vineyard. Two totally different worlds, in a sense, but universes amongst themselves, right? My experience in that world has only humbled me and sent me back to whatever dining room I was in, like, whoa, you know, and sometimes levels your sense too. Sometimes, you know, you make gods out of certain things, and then you go there and you're like, oh, I get it. You know, like as this, for example, you might laugh at this. As a student sommelier, right? You study champagne like a crazy person, and in the deep carved out clay cave network that sits underneath the hillside of the region of Champagne, the wine is stored while it goes under secondary fermentation inside of the bottle. I'm not explaining any of that, but what anybody needs to understand is a sense of like a dust settlement starts at the bottom of the bottle. And there are these old men, they say, that walk around these cold caves in Champagne. They're called riddlers. And they walk up to the bottle and shake it 2 or 3 times, turning it to the right or to the left. They have some like motion that they do. And when they're finished, they've angled the bottle up a little bit, causing that dust settlement to make its way slowly towards the neck of the bottle, right? This is the story as it's told, the ancient riddlers of the caves of Champagne. But then when you get there, you see these massive machines, right, picking up cages of bottles that house like 900 Veuve Clicquot bottles. And they're being turned by this massive artificial intelligence machine that turns this massive, you know, box of bottles over little by little. You go one way, you come back with a sense of reality, right? You don't see all of those bottles of Veuve Clicquot at Costco by the hands of riddlers.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen that way.
That's amazing. It sounds like it's almost like you took that kid on that ride in Disneyland and then you showed him all the machines and like how the characters are only half painted, you know?
Right. It's
automatic.
Funny you said that? We just went to Disneyland not that long ago with my 4-year-old for the first time, and I'm from California and not too far down the road, so I've been a bazillion times, and I have lots of experiences going to that park. But I hadn't been in a while. And going back with my daughter, you're dead on, dude. You go on those rides, it's just black lights. That's all they're just using black lights everywhere. Like 90% of the rides are that glow-in-the-dark paint and black lights. It just totally blinds the eye. All you can see is what they want you to see.
Absolutely.
And I was like going on these rides. I'm like, these are legendary rides. The Peter Pan ride is a legendary ride, but it is, I bet if you turn the lights on, you would just be like, oh my God.
Oh, yeah. I love that analogy.
You know? Some of the characters, Pierre, are like bored, right? They're like painted board. It's like, it costs like $200 to get in there now. It's just a black light with a swivel board. I'm like, what is that? It's still amazing. I love my time, but
yeah, for sure. It's the only difference is that people are still there maintaining it versus it looking like you're made it to Second World War dead zone with dead people on the walking stick. I don't know what I'm saying. It sounds scary, but Michael, how? Okay, so you're deep into sommelier. You finally tasted the ground. Like it tastes.
Oh yeah,
it tastes disgusting. It's not what you thought, but it's cool at the same time. How do you weave into that?
I ended up taking a job here in Chicago as the wine director of the Peninsula Hotel in Chicago. Exactly. Your response was kind of like why I took the gig.
Yeah.
It was like I kind of was at that point where I was like, look, I don't know. If I'm going to do this, I got to be good at it.
Yes.
And if I'm going to be really good at it, I got to go to one of those crazy institutions. I gotta get one of those jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where all the accreditation and stuff would kind of get you in the door. But just as you were saying before, with experience and connection, like to get a job at one of those hotels back in the day, it was like 12 interviews.
Yeah.
You were making through that process with credentials.
Mm-hmm.
You're not getting through some of those people with credentials. You need to not only have the smarts, but then you need to showcase a sense of management, a sense that you can make your way working through. Hotels are big, big, monstrous animals. And I didn't really know any of that at the time. But once I got my gig, it became very, very clear that like, wow, this thing is monstrous. And I have the ability to sell a lot of wine. I mean, I can really start pushing product around. A banquet department gives you this like epic, oh man, you can swing hard and just be like, well, let's sell this. You do that through your relationships with the distributors. A sommelier in Chicago, Illinois, or in the United States, you don't have a lot of, the choices you get to choose from are the ones that are brought into your state via a network of distributors who import that wine, right, into San Fran or New York and truck it into Illinois. And they pay,
right. Yeah.
Right? They pay for all of that. They do the deal in Italy and buy the Chianti there and put it on the container and get it to the States and then get it to Illinois. And then I can say, ooh, look, I found a Chianti yesterday that's really beautiful. You should come and taste it, right? So when you see yourself that far down in the decision-making process as a sommelier, you're like, damn, man, We've been lucky in the past in Chicago where we've had an army of distributors that have brought like rainbows of flavors to the city. And by that, I mean like small appellations in the Loire Valley that you're not, like they dig.
Yeah.
And they work with the right importers. But COVID is really just kind of had its way with that, it feels like. And dispersed my wine world in a pretty big way. But anyway, I worked at the hotel for like 6 or 7 years. And then it was there that I met Curtis, Chef Duffy. And he and I became friends very quickly. And that's when I really started shooting food on a hey, I'm going to get better at this or I'm going to die trying.
Yeah.
And from there, we split off and opened our first restaurant together, which is called Grace. And that lived for 5 years. And then it died. And that, if you want to have if you want to have entrepreneur conversation, that's more in that realm. I'll leave it, for you to push in any direction. But we opened a business, but we didn't own the business. And then we weren't happy. And the door was the only way out. We had to leave. And that was soul crushing, man. Like,
what is the I think a lot of people are curious. I even asked you those questions offline, like when around the first few times we met. I was like, how does it work? Like restaurants are like venture capitalist backed startups in a way, or because I know some of those restaurants are super expensive to run.
Oh, totally, yeah.
You have so many people.
First, I should say that I was listening to one of your podcasts. It was a couple ago, and you were talking to a friend of yours. And you were talking about branding, and then you had brought up a point to him where you're like, well, I wouldn't want to brand after my own name because then I'm eventually going to sell that brand. And then I don't want it to, that way, this, that, and the other. And I had the exact same response to that comment that your buddy did. I was so happy when he said to you, he goes, oh, yeah, you think of that stuff. I don't think of that. I wouldn't have thought of that or whatever. And as you ask me about how restaurants get financed and how the artists are almost never the rich people in the room that have that money to go, let's get this thing started, right? That's just that's not how this goes. To your point and your friend's reaction, I say to you that like everyone needs to understand chefs don't have a course in culinary school of how not to get totally screwed by someone who is well-versed in the business realm. Well-versed in chefs don't have how to construct membership for LLC 101, Pierre. It doesn't happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't. They don't get that. I didn't get that. My dumbass graduated from college. I didn't understand. The first one that we went through was a full-fledged lesson the worst way to learn it ever.
Which is the best, no?
Which
if you want the lesson to stick.
People in business will sometimes be like, yeah, you'll live to really thank that person. No, I'm not there yet. So
not yet.
Forgiveness is tough for me, but you don't get that training. And so that process for us was big lessons learned in that.
Mm-hmm.
And sorry, back on your question. How does it get started? So we got kicked to the curb. We were down and out. So I'm pretty well versed in how to start it. And you want to hear like stories, but it's get a email list together. Sit down, grab your phone, look through it, find the people that you think would be down for something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Get an email together, a serious one, send it out, and start tapping people on the shoulder consistently. See who bites. They're not into it. They're not into it. They are. They are. And I had to hit the street. Ooh, who doesn't like asking people for money? Me. I hate it.
Everyone hates it.
It's the worst.
Yeah. It
and
feels
I had
weird.
To do it. Yeah. So then eventually what happens, Pierre, is that, or eventually, if you're lucky, I guess I should say, lots of fish come into the scenario, right? But the bigger the fish, what you do is you shop your deal.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I'm not explaining it properly. You come up with it, you make a business plan, you hire a lawyer, you sit down and you go, okay, listen, this is what I think our deal should look like.
Mm-hmm.
You put a pro forma together that says what the business will produce from a financial standpoint. It's all lies. It's all assumptions, right? But you're like, look, if we do this many covers, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, this many covers on Friday and Saturday, we charge this much, this is what it'll generate. Put that pile of money over there, and then this is how we're going to divide it.
Mm-hmm.
That's in a document, and I give it to you because you have lots of money, right? Everyone knows you're rich. So you look at it and you go, listen, this is cute. I like this idea. What if, and I see the raise, I see what you're trying to build here. What if I come in for boom? What if I did this? Would it change the deal for me?
Mm-hmm.
What if I came in for this? Would it change the deal for me? What if I came in for this and wanted to call myself a capital P partner and have a say-so and stuff and be able to position myself to correct things if they went awry, right? This is divorce talk here, and it's done with lots of lawyers in the room, and there's shitty conversations to have.
Mm-hmm.
But from my last experience, we were having these conversations. And these go all the way into the bizarre world of like, what if Curtis dies? What if the chef dies? He rides motorcycles. That's not out of the question.
Yeah. I mean, and he's living, so he will die eventually.
Right? What if he dies? What if you die, Muser? What's going to happen? Well, who's going to run the show? Who's going to mouth off all the time?
Mm-hmm.
You have all these conversations. And so in our case, we took on this legitimate partner and made our raise through other entities, through other people, and put this agreement together. And it's a massive agreement. It's got psychotic amounts of say-sos in it. They're ridiculous documents. I don't know anyone. At a certain point, like my wine knowledge, it was like super sharp. At a certain point, you could have asked me the interior details of all the aspects of my business agreements, and I could have crushed it, right? But I'm not in that mode now. I'm operating. Now you ask me what deliveries are coming in or what employees are upset or what's got to go down to make next week work. I'm in that world. But I'm telling you, I remember walking through it, and it starts there. It starts with putting people in the room. And then everyone gets to, once everyone's like, I want to be in this room, then you basically put the word fair in the middle of the room. And everybody starts walking towards that word.
Yeah.
With good intention. Always with good intention. But you'd be surprised how you got to say some pretty crazy shit in those moments, man. You got to be like, I'm going to have to dig my heels in on this one, guys. I want to be able to do this. This is important to me in this deal.
What would be one or two things that surprised you the most that people wanted to say, or maybe ownership over, or that is something you did not foresee?
That's a really good question. I mean, the knots in the rope are many. It writes over social media.
Oh, wow.
Right? Like the business is a thing, but it's a thing based on us. And what I do in my time on social media affects everybody involved. Now, everyone in the room right then and there, Pierre, would be like, listen, Muser, don't get upset. We all know you're a good guy. We all know you would never do anything to upset someone.
Yeah.
We know that. But we also know you talk fast. So
yeah,
maybe there should be something in there that says if we need to, we can intervene in that way. Or what, it gets weird.
Mm-hmm.
It just sometimes does. But, there's grown-ups in the room. And, but it's part of it, man. It's like from the entrepreneur business pushing standpoint, I've been that boots on the ground. It starts with your phone, an email list, hustling, grinding, finding those people, putting them in the room, pitching. Oh man, it's war. Getting something. It's like I always say, it's like in the launching the Spruce Goose. Just at the end of that Leonardo DiCaprio version of that, where it's it's just so hard to get it to take 5 inches off the water. But you got to do it.
Did you feel ready when you left the peninsula to go on a journey like that, or were you seeing yourself as a manager or like director, or were you like, hey, you're good, I'm good, we're gonna make something?
I was confident in our ability to do all the restaurant stuff, but I was scared out of my brain.
Mm-hmm.
I had left a consistent job. I mean, Pierre, I was the wine director of the Peninsula Hotel. Okay. Like, it was a nice gig, man.
Yeah.
And I loved my family there. And to step out into this, what they're going to replace me. I'm never going to get this gig again. I kept thinking to myself.
Yeah.
But we jumped in wholeheartedly, especially once construction started. And, it's just one of those things. And once you're on the ground, it's like, this has to win, man. This has to win. This has to work.
Interesting. I keep thinking about that moment where you're like, okay, didn't anything help you make that decision of quitting, or do you know what it boiled down to?
Curtis, my partner. Yeah. I think that he has a way to kind of push me around pretty good when he knows he needs to. He's like we're everyone that, if followers or whatever watch the documentary, you'll see that like he's a guy of very few words. I'm a guy of way too many. So when he pulls me over and hits me with something, I usually know it's important. And there was no way at the hotel he was done. He was miserable at the hotel. There's a downside to that whole structure too, right? It's like they're beautiful prisons.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
they run. I quit too.
They run you hard. Yeah, they'll run you hard. And so he was dying to get on and move on to bigger and better things.
Mm-hmm.
And I went, so I was courageous enough to go, but I was for sure scared, man. I was like, oh man, I'm leaving a good gig here.
Yeah. Yeah, and I imagine that, you didn't have kids at that time, did you?
No, thank God.
Well, thank So if I fast forward, I kind of want to know something around if I'm looking at my notes, I was like writing about launching ever, because I remember it was so beautiful and a little disheartening at the same time. When we met, was ever open, or was it like you guys didn't even know when it could reopen? And I remember, so you create that incredible restaurant and you guys like really put your heart into it, and suddenly I'm like in the podcast and you're like, no, it's not open, but we have a burger place here. I'm like, what happened? Like just give us like a quick bite of how the launch went and the timeline was COVID, because that impacted so badly.
So we it's good on the photography front too. So we get started on the restaurant, right? Funding done. It's pre-COVID. Donald Trump is president, for God's sakes, and the economy is bullish, right? Remember back? It was weird. It's like
Yeah.
you almost can't remember pre-COVID, but it was like everything was crazy because
Yeah.
Trump was president. But the economy was, there was this confidence in it. It was just kind of crazy. So we made it through that. We started construction, and I grabbed my camera, as I always do, and because we've got an Instagram account and we don't have a restaurant yet. So I'm going to promote this thing come hell or high water. You're going to go on a ride with me. You're going to follow construction every step of the way. I would never go to site without my cameraman.
Which
I'll
I love.
always have.
I absolutely love. That's something you still do now. And when I look at your account, I love how you document just everything.
It's for sure one of my favorite aspects of what we do. So we're going along and we're building, and I'm posting, and we've got a fair number. We're getting there. We've got like 15, 20,000 followers, and we're not even open yet. So I'm super happy about that. And then COVID hits about halfway through construction, and the world shut down in the way that it did, and weirdos like you and I hit the street and just start taking all these zombie apocalypse shots at downtown Shy. Like,
loved it. Absolutely loved it. Oh, so
that
good.
was the best, dude. I was eating your videos at that time, dude, because I was just like, where's he going to go tomorrow? Because I was creeping in alleys, and you could just stand in the middle of Michigan Avenue and shoot whatever you wanted.
This is crazy. I remember Trader Joe like empty, nothing to sell.
So I come to my restaurant, and I'm like, where is everybody, right? Because construction was an essential trade at the time.
Yeah.
So now it's a game of keeping the plumbers over there, keeping the electricians over there, and fighting our way through. But it weirded me out as a photographer, because now I'm going to take pictures and promote this thing. This thing is a restaurant. But we are now in a world where no one really will believe you that a restaurant will ever be. Not just the one that you're building right now. Now I look silly. Now I look like an idiot. I'm look at me. I'm building this fancy restaurant, everybody. Everyone's like, are you And every time I posted, Pierre, it was like a sense of embarrassment, like confusion, right? It was the weirdest thing to do, to promote it and shoot it and edit pretty photos of a thing that everyone thought
was gonna kill you.
Yeah.
If I go there and I pay, I'm gonna die and come back as a zombie.
Restaurant looks cool, dude. I'm not dying to go there because I'm not. Like, it was just kind of like that. It was the weirdest thing, right? So then we got, right when the restaurant was done, construction-wise, the restaurant industry was allowed to open to 25%. 25% capacity of your dining room could be used. And Chef and I looked at each other and we're like, do we give a go? Do we do this with 25% capacity? And ultimately we went. We opened, we hired a team. We went through the weirdest orientation. I mean, this is phase one, COVID, man. Everyone was so... There was
we didn't know. We thought we would die if we caught COVID at one point, at the beginning. Everyone's like, oh my God.
And I'm assembling a team of 33 front of house employees, 20 plus back of house employees. And we're going to talk about standards, Michelin stars, food art. I mean, there were parts of us that were like so happy to be there at times, because it's like, at least we're not in our apartments anymore or whatever, but mostly it was weird. And then we're going to welcome strangers into our house. And how are we going to treat them, and how are we going to make them feel comfortable in this this environment where...
How close can you be to them?
I got to treat you like I love you, but stay away from you.
Yeah.
I've got to offer you hand sanitizer. Like, it's just was the weirdest thing. And then 3 months after they allowed 25% capacity, they shut everybody down again. And that's when the real pain hits, because you lay everybody off.
Yeah. That must
Restaurants
be heartbreaking.
Fully the humans inside of them. That's the end of it. Like, if there's good people working towards something, you'll have good service. Without your humans, you're a done atom. And I had to fire them all, furlough them, you know. And then they look at you and they go, what does that mean? It means you don't work here. Till when? I don't know. What? It means tomorrow we're not open and you and I are not going to talk to each other for an undisclosed amount of time. None of you and I, like, I don't know what, I can't.
Yeah.
They cry, you cry. Brutal, dude. The worst. And then to survive, we start doing to-go experiences. And that, I don't even know a shitty enough analogy to give a photographer. Can you help me with that? I mean, like, what would it be like? I don't know, dude. Imagine shooting something. You're just like, no way. I'm taking pictures of this as a job. This is my new job.
Yeah.
We hated it.
Maybe
and
IKEA
then,
photographer.
right?
IKEA sets photographer.
Because, like, even, I don't know, I want to say shoot rocks, but rocks can be beautiful. I would shoot rocks.
Maybe more like a manual to build the IKEA furniture. Here, take a photo of that piece and that piece. And yeah.
Anyone thinking that any one restaurant that was doing to go to survive was having fun doing it, maybe there were. I don't know. But I didn't know any. And
what was that ever experiences to go? Or was that
we called it ever to go. And the fine dining restaurants started doing these take home experiences where you rewarmed aspects of the meal at home, and they were great. I mean, my guys are great, right? So the food tasted good, and it was what it was. But this relied on people coming to the restaurant and picking up this stuff and then taking it home. And the generosity of Chicago is only going to go so far. I mean, my gosh, this is like getting crazy. Got so crazy, we ran out of money to a level where the partners showed up.
Oh.
And I have good partners, and they don't show up because they love us. And they're like, we ain't messing with these guys. And then they were like, can we talk? And I knew this was bad, man.
Yeah.
And it's the pandemic, and it is all that it is. And there's PPP coming, but who knows when that's going to get here. And the world's on fire. And when everybody enters the room, despite our fine dining pedigree, despite our careers spent at high-level hospitality, when there's no money in the bank, Pierre, it's only a matter of minutes before someone says pizza or burgers.
That's so interesting. But I can see how it happens.
Dude, I saw it before it happened because I was sitting in the room and I'm like, one of these guys, I even named the one that was going to do it, is going to say burger. And like 3 minutes later, we should just do burgers. I was like, yeah, here we go. We're going to do this because I knew we would.
Hey, maybe if it had been a year later, you guys would have turned into the ever COVID center.
Yeah, exactly.
So burger might still be higher on the preference list.
God, man. And so we turned the word ever around, called it Rev Burger.
Which is dream in French.
Exactly. And Chef liked that, right? Dream Burger. He's like, that's kind of cute. I'm like, I was so bitter at the time, Pierre. I'm like, whatever. Just please kill me right now.
Whatever.
Yeah, exactly. So we start selling cheeseburgers. And they sell. To my chagrin, to my disappointment. They're selling like hotcakes, man. I'm like, oh no.
This is your business lesson in a minute. Burgers. Oh look, we're making money.
I mean, this is the worst idea of all time. So here we go. Now, to long story short, the dining rooms are allowed to open back up a couple months later, and the cheeseburgers allowed us to make payroll, which is a big deal because 3 or 4 of these people that are on staff, I cannot let go.
Yeah,
they're far too important to me, and so they're so important to me. As a matter of fact, that I gave cheeseburgers a run. Right, like that's. I accepted it because I'm not losing these humans that I love so much in this restaurant. And so they open restaurants. Ever goes back to being Ever. Here comes the picture taker in me. The guy across the street from us has this big building. And it's a warehouse. And it's got a hood in it, a kitchen section to it. And he offers it to us to make the cheeseburger thing move across the street. As you would know already, I wasn't really happy about the cheeseburger thing, and I've got a gun to its head, and I'm ready to kill it at any moment. But I go see the warehouse, and it's like a legit big warehouse. And immediately I'm like, there's a scrim over there with a photography studio on the corner. For sure, I could do that. And over there is this old bank vault with these two big crazy doors. And I bet I could turn that into a podcast studio in about 30 minutes. And here I could put a big lounge and waiting area with a bunch of TVs and stuff. And so, believe it or not, RevBurger becomes this huge hero for me because it provides us an opportunity to kick a concept around a little bit in a mostly inexpensive environment where I can manipulate to take pictures, do portraits, shoot food. Like, do you know how nice it is to just have a light set up and then just put the food in front of it and not have to throw all this world together every time?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. If for anyone listening, if you're able to create anything consistent, like where you don't have to think about it and you just use it, it's so freeing.
It's amazing. That you can put something down and like count on the light source and be like, I know what this does when I put food in front of it. I don't have to worry about what time of the day it is or if we're in the kitchen or in the hallway or, I've spent so much time doing that my whole life. And when, this situation with this warehouse isn't going to last forever. And when it goes, I'll lose that. I'll lose that little gift. But I take advantage of it as much as I can.
Is it still running?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. It's there as long as the gentleman who owns that building is one of them Chicago builder guys, and he's got big plans for the lot, and it doesn't include the existing building that's there, which is why he's so sweet to me in allowing me to kind of like parasitically take over sections of the warehouse and build photography studios where I'm really not supposed to be. He's just kind of cool.
Yeah, that's really cool. And to anyone in Chicago, try the burgers. They're really good. Yeah. I bought them after the podcast. We brought them back, and Trina was like, "Oh, this is really good. We should get some more."
And a kind of a halfway secret note is it looks like a walk-up window thing, but you actually kind of can go inside and sit down now, and it's pretty fun inside.
Oh, you can now?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure, you
sweet.
should. Oh, you should for sure come. It's like a demented Pee-wee's Playhouse now.
Cool. I'll come tomorrow.
Yeah, for sure, dude. I got you.
It's only -23 tomorrow, so we're gonna go shoot at the lake.
I know. Oh, you know what's Happy Town is that I leave for vacation tomorrow.
Oh, perfect.
Maui.
Oh, that sounds terrible.
Let's see if we finally get there.
Yeah, you're leaving at the right time just to get a breath of warm air and remember that life doesn't have to be so cold forever.
It's gonna be freezing tomorrow in Chicago, dude.
I know. We're gonna go shoot. So we're Ever is running, and how is it running now for you guys? Is it like, are you clear? Are you back to business as usual?
Yeah, I admire how organized you are when you're talking. Now, currently, because I just go in thousands of directions, we are operating. When the CDC a minute ago said take your masks off, like that unleashed a floodgate of pent up, I want to go out tonight energy. Most restaurants that were still standing, I think, saw an abundance of that energy and became very busy very fast. Problem is, we didn't have staffs. No one had anyone anymore. And as I told you before, restaurants are simply the humans inside them.
Yeah.
And whether you have good or bad service, dude, just totally depends on who works here and how much do they care. And it has gotten to the point as an operator, you're very unhappy all the time because talk about doing to-go food, dish pit, food running, clearing tables. Your job is whoever didn't show up today. That's your job now.
Yeah.
And has put a lot of the restaurants in a tailspin and just made everybody kind of like, a little salty because you're just not, and it's hospitality wide, and it's not just the hospitality industry. Everybody knows this, or at least I would hope that everyone would know that all of our nurses and doctors, just burnout is real. On a very tangible level, and I see it. Sometimes it scares me when I look over at my chef de cuisine because 3 people didn't show up today.
Yeah.
And the mise en place on those dishes, Pierre, it don't matter.
Yeah.
Somebody's going to make all that.
Yeah.
And you just it gets sad sometimes, now, but we're busy.
Yeah.
So find a restaurant person that's going to complain about being busy. You're not. Like
Yeah.
they're just, we're not designed to do that ever. Busy is not something you complain about. It's
Yeah,
something you
especially
deal
after
with.
COVID.
But I also, but then throw into this mix somebody in Nashville. There was like a known chef in Nashville, left the business about a month or so ago.
Oh wow.
And he wrote a goodbye to the industry, like op-ed in something. And it hit social media and trended enough for it to pop on one of my feeds. And I read it, and it was devastational, man, because it was truthful. It was truthful. He described the daily grind of a chef. People think that chefs cook. They do, but mostly they clean.
Yeah.
Mostly they clean. They fucking clean all day.
Oh my god. Yeah, this is something people don't see. Like, oh my god, they think like someone else does it, and you're like, no. Like you cut something, you clean your knife. You cut another thing, you clean your knife again.
It's why the pride of so many at the higher level is based off of cleanliness. Yeah. It's why when you watch Jiro Dreams of Sushi, they did those ultra slow-mo of him washing his hands and wiping every moment. That is the epitome of a Michelin-starred chef, right? You are your place. And if a chef walks over and sees disaster, chaos, or a set of unorganized skills going down, you're going to get lit up. Because it's not the standard, right? The standard is to be clean.
Oh my god, this is great that you mentioned Jiro Dreams of Sushi, because I literally finally watched it last week.
Oh, no way, really?
It's been out since 2011. I heard it millions of times. I never ever watched it, and we finally got to watch it. I obviously went to check online if I could book a table, knowing that we can't go to Japan. But anyway, I was like, oh my god, maybe I want to go to the Brothers restaurant. I'm okay with this one. But anyway, regardless, and it just shows you that like dedication, that patience, that like people think they're inventing every day, but like 95% I feel like of being like excellent is being able to repeat gesture the same way and just being consistent and disciplined.
Yes.
It just blew my mind. I was like, oh my god, this is exactly why I love Japan also, because you'll find that noodle guy that does the udon the same way, and he's gonna be like so into the udon that everything, the whole experience has to be perfect for you to taste it, like don't even think about using your left hand or whatever. It's like, no, this is how you try it. And it totally reminded me of our experience at Ever, and we're talking with Trina, we're like, oh my god, Michael, and then and we're like, oh, this is beautiful. But again, this is things that takes so long after being good at cooking.
And as when we were talking before, and I was saying a lot of people think they want to, as it would be, people think they want to be in that world, and experience that. Very few actually get into that swimming pool and go, I'm down with this. This level of intensity, this level of scrutiny of everything I do in here. I thrive in this. I like this. You and I would know right off the bat, just the base description of that human. There aren't a lot of those.
Yeah.
There aren't a lot of those. And today, due to COVID, there are fewer than ever before. So you ask me what's going on now? We're operating, we're killing, we're pushing, we're fighting, struggling. We need time to create. We need time for R&D. But I can't look at my team and tell them to get to work on new things when they're buried in mise en place in the stations that didn't show up that day or are not even there at all, right? They're just taking on all this weight. So that's I'm a negative person. So, we're happy in a million other ways.
Yeah.
We're working, we're alive, we're here. We've survived this pandemic thus far.
I don't think you're negative. I would say you're more realistic than negative. Meaning, like you said, there's both sides. Something that shocked me or like impressed me in the kitchen was how silent it was. When I was shooting there, part of me in my head for the YouTube video was like, damn, it's really silent. I didn't even dare speaking. And I was like, is this gonna be boring for the video? Like there's no one shouting, and it's just like seamless and like really quiet. And I was like, wow, amazing. And
I think
that
it's a hysterical concept. You doing one of your videos in an environment where you're not allowed to actually talk about what you're doing.
I know, it was so weird. I was like, all right, where should I do my intro? In the corridor, in that room? Like, but then you don't see the kitchen, and I don't feel comfortable doing it in the kitchen.
25 chefs working in complete silence, and then you turn your camera on. Good morning, everybody!
That was a disaster. But I loved shooting, and like I remember, I love the video we created either way, whether or not I could speak, which is great because it pushes me in different directions. Also it forces me to think about things differently, which is good creatively. But yeah,
I thoroughly enjoyed having you in the kitchen and watching you shoot, because I got to just watch somebody else move and watch where you went, what you shot, where your eye went, what you thought was interesting, the moves you made, the shots you came out with. That was bountifully helpful to me. It was amazing. I loved it. I'm so appreciative that you did that.
I love what you're saying, because it's actually something I realize is we don't have that in the photography world as much as you have it in the culinary world. For example, a chef will be with another chef and see how he works, and they'll be in a kitchen with a lot of people seeing different things. But when you're a photographer, it's fairly lonely, I would say. It's a lonely thing, and if you get to work with a team, if you get to, yes, you will see, but it's not built by design to be like very communal. And I feel like there's so much to be learned, because you're like, oh, you use it, like you said, oh, I didn't think you would do this, or why do you do this? This is,
I mean, I'll give you a perfect example is that you came in the kitchen and immediately started using reflective surfaces.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, how have I not?
It's so clean.
How have I not done that? I don't understand. Like, how? And then if you go to the Ever Instagram account after you left, I like 4 shots of like me just pulling like a stainless steel edge or something into the left-hand side of the frame, and then whatever, just playing with it, so that not only is the chef plating on the right-hand side, but his reflection is there on the. It was just. I immediately stole that. I was like, this guy. Awesome.
I hope you did. I hope that's why I made the video.
Oh, I immediately started shooting it.
This is so fun. I remember. Michael, I want to be mindful with your time. You probably have to pack your suitcase for Maui or try to deal with a million things before. That might be the latter more. Okay.
I'll tell you this, that when I went to listen to some of your podcasts, I was so proud of you to go long format. And I was so happy to see conversations at an hour 20 and plus, right? This is that. I've always believed that, like, this is that format. You want your 15-second dopamine whack? Go to Instagram, right? Like, there's a house for that, right? Use those instant hits, but like podcast them at length is like it's always my favorite stuff that always happens at the end anyway.
But you're wired like me at the end of the day. It's like, how can we even speak in like even a 10-minute podcast? Like, okay, you told me who you are and what you're supposed to give me the highlight of your life. No,
right.
It's not. You don't just like do peaks of mountains. You got to start in the valley.
Exactly. I listened to. Do you ever listen to Visual Revolutionary?
No, I haven't.
Oh, it's super cool.
I'll write it down. Visual Revolutionary.
Visual Revolutionary. And it is a podcast. The guy's name escapes. He's based out of Colorado, and he basically has telephone conversations with photographers and creators all over the place.
Nice.
And they keep the conversation pretty process focused.
Yeah.
But what I love about it is, and what I love about you and everything that you do, is just the life of photographers and how it is just you and this camera and your idea of a career that you're going to invent.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's kind of all you really have at that point. I adore the stories of people that do that. I love them. Oh, I have a documentary hit for you.
Oh, go ahead.
Can I do it really quick?
Yeah.
The Individualist. Showtime.
The
Photographer
individualist.
Ricky Powell, New York City in the 80s, a guy who was embedded in the birth of hip hop, the Beastie Boys, and got some epic street photos of Andy Warhol and the like of his time. But why I bring it up to you is that what it kind of gave me, because the guy himself is hysterical. He's quite the character, as you would imagine. But that it just reminded me of what I like about photography, that you're in a room you're not allowed to be in.
Yeah.
It puts you somewhere you were not asked to be. You don't get this story other than somebody had the genius to pick up a camera and start taking pictures.
Yeah.
And because of that, I get to see what it was like to be backstage with the Beastie Boys in 1984 on their first tour or something, right? Like, I'm exposed to this piece of American life that I was too young or not cool enough to be a part of. And I just adore the life of photographers that accomplish that. And I love it when good docs come out, and that's a really good one.
Ooh, I'm writing that one down. I remember you're the one who recommended Vivian Meyer's documentary also.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my god, this is so good. Plus it's Chicago story, so I was like, oh, such a unique character. And her story is even weirder than, like, the photos are great, but just the story. Again, it's exactly why your restaurant like works and why you guys are in that space. It's the experience, it's not, you're not experiencing her photo, you're experiencing the whole story of that person, and that changes completely the dynamic you have with the art in a way. I have friends who believe strongly, like, a bad photo is a bad photo if you don't get anything out of it by looking at it, and if you need a supporting story for it. But now, and I kind of agree with that, as harsh as it may sound. Like, if I don't get anything, it's a photo that bad for me, not for you. If you get something, that's amazing. It's very personal. But if I get something out of that photo, and now you give me an experience of the story that just blows the photo out of proportion and makes it even more interesting, or give me context on something, I'm like, yes, it's that's just what you want. It's just so good. It feels nice. So gonna check out The Individualist. If anyone's watched it, let us know on Twitter, Instagram. I don't know wherever you want.
He's quite the character, so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody was like, yeah, that was a bit much. But he's it's like I also think it's a really good snippet into just life in the 80s in New York, with all of the bad and the crazy that was there. There was life and electricity, and it was on the sidewalk and in the parks, and it was just, to be inside was not okay. And oh man, just to think of taking pictures back then, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, everything looks cooler. Do you think everything looks cooler 50 years later also? It might be that aspect.
Yeah, probably. There's yeah, there's a couple like Instagram accounts that do these like amazing color footage of like old cities, and they're like these like 15-second snips. And yeah, for sure, the clothes, the hats, the buttons, the vests, the shoes, the leather, like there was just so much more leather, like there was so many more leather goods back then. I love taking pictures of like old leather stuff.
Yeah, that's one thing I feel like, at least in France, we started going back to, especially when I went back for Christmas, whether it's a food and beverage, I noticed especially in the food scene, but also arts, goods, everything. There's been a like renaissance of wanting to go for art, craftsmanship, where people feel like, okay, cool, industrialization is fun, but I want to go back to the craft of, those like small boots that were handmade or whatever, like those objects that were made by hand, and that are unique, and the person who makes it has some craft that's being passed on. And I feel like that's why food is so interesting to me also, beyond the photography aspect. It's just like you cannot do anything without that craft, and you need to find it. So it's really cool. Last kind of like question, if you're okay with that.
All the way, buddy.
Okay, so how do you manage having kids, or one kid now, and okay, maybe you can give your schedule a little bit to people, like, so they understand how long you guys work, because my neighbor, so just quick background story. In France, my neighbor's parents, like my neighbors basically, are both fishermen. How do you call that? They sell fish. They have a fish shop. They sell fish. They're fishery only, and they go to Les Halles, which is the big warehouse of where all the fishermen and the meat and everything comes. They find the best, just like in Jiro Doom's or sushi. They find the best thing, and they sell it. Super expensive. And their son, my age or slightly younger, went into the service industry and started. He used to wait table at the Georges V, which is the best restaurant and the best hotel in the world. Not in the world, but in Paris. It's like the most expensive. Will Smith, all the fancy people go there. And I always saw it. He's like a person of extremes, But I always saw it. It's like so tight. And he would come at 2 a.m. at night and leave super early. And his parents' same routine. And how do you manage with kids? Like, life gets crazy.
Yeah, there's the epic issue just sits in every mom or dad, like whoever, somebody's got to go out and do something and make some money so that we can all have this roof and do things. So whether it's my wife and I both work, she takes super early mornings at she works for Let Us Entertain You, so a restaurant group, and she takes super early mornings. I do drop offs, she does pickups. I get my kid for the morning for like an hour and a half. Rice Krispies, a puzzle or two, serious connection as much as possible, and then drop off at like 8:15, 8:30 at daycare.
Yeah.
In WORK until like midnight. And then go home and do it again. And do that 5 days a week, hard. And then Sundays, you try and turn it off as best you can. And Mondays are bobbling about with work. Monday's not an off day, but it is what it is. I don't know. I'm not managing it, Pierre. I'm just doing it. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
It's that classic, like you have a kid and you figure it out. Well, I've seen some people have kids and not figure it out too, by the way. But our version of figuring it out is to live at a poverty level right now so that we can pay for daycare. Because that is psychotically expensive.
It's crazy. Don't get me started.
I know. And you don't know what to do, right? Because like some of it seems like way above our pay grade, but that Child Care Act thing, I was like, that sounds like a good idea because I'm working my ass off and it's hard to pay this bill, this child care bill, but what am I going to do? Raise this child 24? No, I have to go to work, man.
Yeah.
And so that's my version of managing it right now. The next big jump for us is when daycare is no longer an option, which is coming around the corner, pick a school.
Yeah.
Oh my God. What? I don't know where all your listeners live, but in Chicago, it's like schools 1 through 10, and 10 is awesome. And try not to consider a 5.
Yeah. If you want a metal detector and if you want the crime rate report for your school.
And big surprise, if you're going to rent something or buy something near the 9s and the 10s, those apartments, condos, and houses are usually too expensive for you to consider.
Yeah.
So it's like you want to get in one of, like, that's the next big thing that I will, air quote, manage with my wife in raising this kid. I would say, too, that a lot of it kind of solves itself. Like, I desperately miss my child every second I'm not with her. I get scared to even talk about motorcycles because I haven't ridden very much in the past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
In Chicago, it's only warm for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
So we consider our motorcycle
riding
right.
Seasons, wait, you're not out now?
I mean, I got some pretty wicked gear, but there's a lot of snow on the ground.
Oh, my God.
So, a kid has a way of reprioritizing how you choose to spend your time. And that's why they're the scariest things on the planet. Because I love riding motorcycles. It is my all-time number one. Like me out in the middle of nowhere on a motorcycle, it's over. It's done. I'm not going to get any happier until my child showed up. and she just knocks everything around. And she's not doing it. The worst part about it is you do it.
Yes.
You do it, right? As awful as it sounds. You don't go shoot. You stop taking as many pictures because your daughter's that amazing. Or you find ways to make it all work the way it did, but she's fitting. She's gonna find her way because
Yeah.
she's your kid.
Yeah, it's man, you're touching such a good point. It does shuffle things around in priorities, and it's crazy. And I think honestly, I think that's why a lot of people are afraid to have kids, because part of us is afraid to know we don't want to give up what we built already, or like the lifestyle we have, and we're like, no, we I don't I don't want to deal with anything. I just want to do me, and that's fine. But also you're trading that off for an amazing experience in a way. But I was telling my wife the other day, I'm like, 0 to maybe 12 or 10, 12, I feel like might be the most important time if you're able to like slow down on anything. Because when I think about it, I'm like, okay, fine, in 10 years I'm not going to be that old anyway. But that, I feel like those 0, 7, 0, 10 is so, it like I'm gonna go on a trip for 2 weeks, and I'm part of me is scared. I'm like, oh my god, this is a little scary. Like, I don't know how the relationship's gonna change or whatever. It's and I'm like, I wish everyone would come with me. I don't think that trip is appropriate for that, and I want to make it possible for others. But so you're like, how do like, yeah, there's no good balance. You try your best.
Exactly. It's so fun. That's why I hesitated in the beginning. You're like, how do you manage it? I'm like, oh my, in my head, I'm like, manage? I don't
Survive.
I'm just fighting for any sense of survival at this point. I will say this, right? One of my best friends and one of my podcast partners, my buddy Pat, we have actor friends and stand-up comedy friends and stuff like that. And that's an artistic pursuit of epic renown. And for sure, talk about there are certain things in life you cannot have if that is your thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to be successful at that, you got to literally set goals, and everything else to the wayside dies. Now, as you get into your 40s and your 50s, I'm 47 now, to still know some of those people who have resisted the epic gravitational pull of starting a family or making a baby.
Yeah.
And they're still going after those goals. My buddy Pat, we've looked at those people. We thought, that's cool and that's awesome. And being a great photographer is awesome. And being a famous actor would be great and all of those things. But you would be denying yourself the greatest friendship and relationship life has to offer.
Yeah.
The greatest friendship you'll ever have. The greatest relationship you will ever have. There's just no question about it. It can't compare with any. I love my wife. Trust me. I love my wife. And I love my mom and my dad. And I'd bleed for any one of them. But me and my daughter, get out of this. No way, dude. They're just nothing. So the bike is great, and the job is great, and the restaurant's awesome. And right now, perfect example, we sit as a 2 Michelin-starred restaurant, which by every stretch, Pierre, is something most restaurants will never see.
Mm-hmm.
But it ain't 3.
Not yet.
And so every day is not a management, but a struggle to do what I got to do and spend the time that I got to spend in my business to uphold those standards and get it to where I want it to be. And I know my daughter gets out of daycare at 4:15, and I really want to go home. I really want to go home. But I can't because, my buddy Chris is in the dining room tonight, and I got to shake a hand and say hi and, do things. So I stay at work at the end of the day and miss my kid exponentially.
I wonder, part of me wonders, like, is there a way to integrate more that with our kids, like the work? How do we integrate them more into it? And I don't think it's possible for everyone. Absolutely not. There's some jobs you just can't. But I always ask myself that question: is there something that I can do? My dad traveled a lot. Could he have taken a family more on those business trips? Maybe it wouldn't have been ideal, but maybe it was possible. I know he did it with my mom a few times. what if you brought the kids? Would it be stupid? And then you listen to, I think it was, who was it? Oof, I can remember an entrepreneur saying, he was like, yeah, I bring my daughter. I think it was even Richard Branson. He's like, yep, brought my kid, and they, it wasn't perfect, but they were sitting with me at the table with the investors. So fuck it.
I feel like now I'm so conservative when it comes to this, but I look at me. My father was a professional baseball player. My whole, as I grew up, we were on the road. Those guys, their season is 9 months long.
Yeah.
And so my whole childhood was El Paso, Vancouver, just all these random places, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and whatnot. We were a traveling band the whole time. I don't know why I don't see it more liberally in that sense. On HBO, they did that documentary called The 100-Foot Wave of that one guy who's searching that 100-foot wave off of the coast of Portugal. He takes his family. He's got his wife and his kids, man. They don't go anywhere without each other.
Yeah.
I mean, these people were traveling everywhere. They had like 2 or 3 kids. I watched in awe. I'm like, fuck your wave, dude. You're traveling with 3 children.
I know.
Insane.
They're ready to give up their things for yours. I'm joking in a way, and not, but so let me challenge you on that. How would it work if you were to bring her to work? Like, even
does it
work?
Happen. Yeah, she runs around. I did the most awful thing, and when she was growing up, I always told her, I'm like, this is your restaurant. This is yours. This is your house. So now she walks in. She's now 4 going on, 4.5. And she walks around and is hysterical. She'll spend time in the restaurant for sure. I don't. There are ways, but mostly, brother, it's a restaurant, man. It's a machine. There's people moving and stuff. There's just nowhere for her over here,
and not for that long. It could work for an hour or 2, yeah, but 14 hours.
Right? Yeah, for sure, exactly. Yeah, and the one good thing about having this little ecosystem we call a restaurant, and is that we've got each other.
Yeah.
So when my general manager's kid has some close call COVID at her daycare, so they shut down 3 rooms as a result.
I forgot about those.
Like 45 alarms go off on her end. She just looks over at me and we got it.
Yeah.
It's the only way I see anything like this working in today's situation with COVID and all that stuff is everybody's got to have everybody's back all the time.
Yeah.
Do you think we're going to go to war with Russia?
No, I didn't think, because I don't watch any news media, so I don't even know what happens.
Really?
I don't look at anything unless someone tells me. It shows up in my weird feed somehow.
I'm not telling you anything then.
Don't tell me. It's okay.
I don't want to freak you out.
No, it's fine. I don't, honestly. It doesn't do me anything. Doesn't do me any good, because they're just bad news media, and it doesn't add anything to my life. At the end of the day, it's minus 23 outside, and I'm gonna go shoot, and my daughter is here, and we have to find a way to physically exhaust her so she sleeps at night without her freezing outside. It's and I still want to be creative and finding. So I'm like, okay, good. Whatever happens in China right now, I can't. I don't. Yeah. Even France, same. The climate in France was very anxiety prone. Yeah, it's just super heavy. When much heavier than here. And I was like, oh damn, this is tough, And you see the medias or something a little more. I would see them a little more because of my family. I was like, I know why I don't ever watch. Because I think everything's shit after 1 week.
For sure, life is better when you do not watch anything. The less you're on it.
It's true.
I found Twitter to be a far more welcoming photography posting platform as of late than anything else.
Yeah, it picked up specifically because of the NFT community. It really grew on the photographers, and also it just looks a little nicer. And you can post without thinking about your grid or what people see. I don't know. It's just lighthearted.
Totally agree with you. I find it much more pleasurable. And you know what I also like is, and I don't think Instagram does this at all. Maybe you could educate me on it, but when someone will post something like they post like a sunset or
Yeah.
whatever, and they'll just go toss up your sunset shots, everybody, and everyone starts throwing up sunset shots. I think that's so much fun.
Yeah.
And it's like a little game where I'll
Oh,
go
yeah,
through
you-
my
you
old
can-
shit.
yes.
I'll be like, let me find one. I got one.
Yeah. No, absolutely. That's true. You can build a better community. That's what I always said. Even YouTube has a better sense of community than Instagram. Instagram just feels like more like robotish. Twitter feels like you're having conversation, and YouTube feels like you're having people watching and people commenting, which is nice.
Sure.
Where can people find you on Instagram and Twitter, by the way?
My Instagram handle is PhotoMuse. PhotoMuse. PhotoMuze.
Do you have an
And,
underscore in between or not?
I think so. Yeah. Am I supposed to know that?
let's
I'm bad, man. I'm the worst.
check super quickly, guys. I think
Yeah,
it
there's
is.
an underscore.
Okay, underscore photo underscore muse, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right, everyone.
But I can't
Photo
imagine my Instagram like it's they always say it should have a theme or some idea behind it
Muse. Yeah.
to give people a reason to. And it's like you and I have had this conversation before where it's like, look, I shoot what's in front of me. And it's either work or my kid. So
Yeah.
my Instagram account is useless to most people. But random food shots and then my gorgeous daughter.
Well, I love following you because sometimes I will see the photos you take with your kid or whatever. I'm like, oh, I'm not utilizing like what I'm doing with other people like as much with my fam, and it's nothing bad. It's just like I could pick it up 10% more, like and get those good shots with a nice lens versus just my phone's great, but nothing replaces a nice 35-1.4, once in a while. So every time I see yours, I'm like, yes, let's remember that.
I always say though, it's like every once in a while you look at your camera and it just feels like to pick it up would be like to pick up Thor's hammer. You're just like, that thing looks like 1,000,000 pounds right now. Everything about shooting, everything about thinking about shooting, everything about thinking about composition. I'm like, oy geez.
And then I'll add everything about thinking about the video that you're gonna make about thinking about shooting.
This is why I admire you, dude. This is why I have so much admiration for you guys. For the stuff that you produce and for the consistency and the quality and the intensity of it. I am a massive fan. Because I see it as it's a sport. Like, this is not easy. These people producing these things, what you do, this takes time, it takes effort, it takes work, it takes so much focus. And it's all self-motivated. There's no one around you telling you to do this shit. You do it.
No, it's pretty lonely sometimes. That's the one thing I miss like that you guys have with the team. It's like you have the team, it's running, and there is those times where you can be creative. You have that space, you can like create new dishes. But you can also use the dishes you made. But if I'm posting videos, I can't go shoot the same street 7 days a week and post the same thing. Like people are gonna be like, "What the fuck?" No, it has to be, I don't know, a new storm or whatever. And I'm like, damn, yeah. But it's okay. It's working. It's working. It's a sport, like you said. It's like repetitions in a way. Michael, okay. You have to prepare for Maui. People can find you on Twitter and Instagram at photo_muse. If they're in Chicago, where do you suggest them to eat?
Well, you can definitely go to we reserve our reservations off a system called Talk.
Okay.
So it's something on there. Ever Restaurant on Talk is how you go to make reservations at the restaurant. Definitely do that if you're listening and you're interested, do it in advance and book it way out so that they just take a deposit and then you're all set. And if you're hungry for a cheeseburger, come on over to Rev Burger. Outside of that, if you ask me, like, that's one of the worst questions any restaurant person gets right now is, where should I eat? Because you don't know, like, you're so confused. Even as a restaurant person, you're like, I don't know which one of my friends are working tonight.
Yeah, and you're like, I'm not a food critic. I'm working 5 days a week on mine.
Yeah, I keep all those people in my life for a reason. All my food critic friends, I tap them for knowledge because I'm so in my own box all the time.
That's amazing. Michael, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your story and all the knowledge. And I hope maybe we'll do another round in the future.
I love it. Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Michael. Bye.
Bye.